Hi, I'm Todd from F5 Design Studio. In this video, I'm going to walk you through CraftOrder Desk and show you how the app can help you manage personalized and made-to-order products. We created CraftOrder Desk mainly for Etsy sellers, but it can work for almost any small business that produces custom items. That could be personalized signs, custom portraits, embroidered products, wedding stationery, jewelry, printed gifts, or anything else that requires you to collect information from the customer before you can begin production. Now, before we look at the features, let me explain the problem we were trying to solve. If you work with custom orders, you probably already know how messy the process can become. The customer places the order, but then sends the personalization in a separate message. A few hours later, they send a reference picture. Then you send them a proof, they request a revision, and 3 days later, they approve it somewhere in the middle of a completely different conversation. At the same time, you have another 10 or 20 orders moving through production. So the real difficulty isn't necessarily making the product. The difficult part is keeping track of every small decision that happens before and during production. Which spelling did the customer approve? Did they confirm the size? Are we using the first proof or the revised one? Has the reference image arrived? Is payment complete? Can we safely start production? And when does the order actually need to be shipped? This information usually exists, but it's scattered across Etsy messages, emails, notes, spreadsheets, and sometimes just your memory. And with a custom product, one missed detail can mean remaking the complete order. That's exactly what CraftOrder Desk is designed to prevent. It gives you one workspace where you can record the important customer decisions, see what is missing, and understand what needs to happen next. Okay, so this is the main CraftOrder Desk interface. The first thing to mention is that this is a standalone offline app. There's nothing to install and there's no account to create. You simply open the HTML file in your browser and the app starts. It works on both Windows and Mac, and your order information is stored locally on your device. That means there's no monthly subscription and the app can continue working without an internet connection. Now, because the information is saved locally, I definitely recommend creating regular backups. We'll look at that option toward the end of the video. Let's begin with the dashboard. This is the screen I would check at the beginning of each working day. Up here, we have 4 quick summaries. The first one shows orders that require an action from you. These are orders where you may need to prepare a proof, confirm some information, start production, or complete another task. Next to that, we have orders that are waiting for the customer. This distinction is actually very useful. It separates the work you can complete now from the orders that are currently blocked because you're waiting for personalization, a reference image, a decision, or final approval. Over here, we can see which orders are ready for production. And finally, this card highlights orders with a possible deadline risk. So, without opening every project, I can immediately see where my attention is needed. Below that, we have the active orders. Each card gives us a compact summary of the order. We can see the product, customer, current stage, next action, due date, proof status, readiness, and deadline risk. For example, this order is waiting for customer approval. This one is missing some information. And this order has already been approved and is ready to go into production. If you have a large number of orders, you can use the search field to find a customer, product, or order number. You can also filter the orders by their current production stage. Now let's look at how we add an order. If I click New Order, I can enter the order number, customer information, product name, quantity, and deadline. You don't need to complete every possible detail immediately. The idea is to create the order first and then add the production information as you receive it. If you already have multiple Etsy orders, you can also use the Etsy CSV importer. You download the CSV file from Etsy and then match the relevant columns with the fields inside CraftOrder Desk. I would still recommend reviewing every imported order. Etsy sometimes changes the structure of its exports, and some personalization details or customer messages may still need to be added manually. The importer saves time when creating the basic order records, but it's always worth checking that the important information has been transferred correctly. Okay, let's open one of the sample orders. I'll use this personalized walnut family sign as an example. At the top, we have the order number, customer, product, deadline, and current stage. Right here, I can change the stage as the order moves through the workflow. For example, the order might begin as a new order, then move to waiting for details, proof sent, approved, ready to produce, in production, quality check, and finally dispatched. Just below that, we have the main order information. This is where I can record exactly what the customer purchased. For this sign, I might need the selected size, material, quantity, and finish. Then we have the personalization. In this case, that could be the family name, a date, the chosen font, and the placement of the text. This is the information that normally becomes buried inside customer messages. By recording it here, I don't need to search through the conversation every time I return to the order. Over here, I also have an area for internal notes. The customer doesn't need to see these. This section is for production information that's useful to me or to another person working on the order. For example, I might note that I need to select a cleaner piece of walnut, use a particular engraving setting, or double-check the alignment before finishing. Next, we have the required information section. This is one of the most important parts of the app. Here, I can create a simple checklist of everything that must be confirmed before production begins. For this order, I may need to confirm the wood type, stain color, size, personalization, and hanging hardware. For another product, I might need a reference photograph, the customer's wedding date, a clothing size, or the correct shipping address. As each piece of information is received, I mark it as complete. And this connects directly to the safety lock. The safety lock is designed to stop an order from appearing production ready while something important is still missing. Let's say the customer has paid and selected the product but hasn't confirmed the spelling of the name. Technically, the order exists, but I shouldn't begin production. CraftOrder Desk keeps the order locked until that required information has been confirmed. This doesn't physically stop you from working on the product, of course. It acts as a clear warning that beginning production at this point could be risky. Once all the required information is complete, the order can move safely into production. Now let's look at proofs and customer approval. For many personalized products, you'll send the customer a visual proof before making the final item. Here I can record that proof version 1 was sent. If the customer asks for a change, I can mark the order as revision requested. Then, when I send the updated version, I can record proof version 2. And once the customer confirms it, I mark that version as approved. This is helpful because it makes the latest approved version very clear. You don't want someone on your team accidentally using the first proof after the customer has already approved a revised version. Below that, we have the communication log. I wouldn't copy every Etsy message into this section. That would create more work than necessary. Instead, I would only record decisions that affect production. For example, proof version 1 sent on Monday. Customer requested a darker background on Tuesday. Proof version 2 approved on Wednesday. Now I have a short, useful history of the order without needing to read through the complete conversation. CraftOrder Desk also includes an approval sheet generator. This creates a simple customer-facing document with the essential product, personalization, and approval information. You can save the sheet as a PDF or send it to the customer when you need an additional written confirmation. You may not need this for every small order, but it can be very useful for expensive products, complicated personalization, wholesale projects, or orders where several details need to be approved together. Once the order is approved, we can begin working through the production checklist. The exact checklist will depend on what you make. For this product, I might prepare the material, complete the engraving, apply the finish, perform a quality check, package the product, and then mark it as dispatched. For an embroidered item, the steps would be completely different. The important thing is that every order has its own checklist. So even if I stop working and return to the order tomorrow, I can immediately see what has already been completed. Now let's look at the deadline risk engine. This tool helps you decide whether the remaining work can realistically be completed before the deadline. I can enter the estimated production time, the number of working hours I have available each day, and an additional safety buffer. CraftOrder Desk then compares the required work with the remaining time. This becomes especially useful during busy periods. When you only have 2 or 3 orders, it's usually easy to understand your workload. But when Christmas orders arrive at the same time, it becomes much harder to judge whether everything will fit into the available production schedule. The deadline risk engine gives you an early warning, while there's still time to adjust the schedule or contact the customer. Next, we have the production time and profit calculator. Here, I can enter the order revenue, material costs, marketplace fees, shipping costs, and the amount of labor required. I can also enter the hourly rate I want to earn. The app then gives me an estimated profit for the order. This is useful because a product can appear profitable until you include the time spent answering messages, preparing proofs, and making revisions. If a certain type of order consistently requires too much time, that may be a sign that the price needs to change or that the personalization options need to be simplified. These calculations are estimates, but they can still help you make better pricing decisions. Now, every custom order business has a different process. That's why the order stages can be customized. If I open Customize Stages, I can rename the existing stages, move them into a different order, or create completely new ones. Maybe you don't use proofs at all, or perhaps your process includes design, cutting, assembly, painting, drying, and final inspection. You can adjust the workflow so that it reflects the way your business actually operates. You can also choose where the safety log begins. For example, you may allow an order to move through the early planning stages with missing information, but require everything to be confirmed before it reaches ready to produce. Once the workflow is configured, you can reuse it for every future order. There are two final tools I want to show you. The first one is the Accountant Export. This creates a cleaner financial summary of your orders without including all the internal notes, messages, and production details. You can use it as a starting point for bookkeeping or share it with your accountant. As always, check the exported numbers before using them for official accounting purposes. And finally, we have the backup tools. Because CraftOrder Desk saves its data locally, backups are very important. I recommend creating a new backup regularly and storing it somewhere separate from the app itself. That could be an external drive, Dropbox, Google Drive, or another cloud storage folder. If you move to another computer, clear your browser information, or lose access to the original data, you can use the backup to restore your projects. So that's the complete CraftOrder Desk workflow. When an order arrives, you add it manually or import the basic information from Etsy. Then you confirm the product, personalization, and required customer information. If a proof is needed, you track each version and record the final approval. Safety Lock helps you check that nothing important is missing. After that, the order moves into production, through quality control, and finally to dispatch. The purpose of the app is not to create additional administrative work. The purpose is to capture the small pieces of information that can otherwise cause expensive mistakes later. You don't need to use every feature for every order. A simple personalized product may only need a few details and a short checklist. A more complicated project may use proofs, approval sheets, deadline calculations, and a longer production process. You can use as much or as little of the system as your business needs. Before we finish, I also want to show you the additional tools included with CraftOrder Desk. The main HTML app is the most complete version of the system, but you don't have to manage every order in exactly the same way. First, the package includes a Notion workspace. If you prefer working online or collaborating with another person, you can use the Notion version to organize your production board, deadlines, customers, order information, and progress. Once you open the included Notion link, you can duplicate the template into your own Notion account and customize it for your business. The Notion workspace is particularly useful if you want to access your orders from different devices or share the workflow with a team member. The package also includes printable CraftOrder Desk worksheets in both A4 and US letter sizes. These are useful when you want to plan an order by hand, keep a printed production sheet beside your workstation, or include paperwork with a physical project. The printable collection contains reusable worksheets for recording order details, personalization, required information, customer approval, production steps, deadlines, and dispatch information. You can print only the pages you need for each order. For a simple product, that might be one order sheet and a production checklist. For a more complicated project, you can combine several worksheets into a complete production folder. You'll also receive editable Canva templates. These can be opened directly in Canva and personalized with your own business name, colors, logo, and customer information. They give you a faster starting point when you need a polished visual document or customer-facing update without designing everything from scratch. So you can choose the workflow that fits the situation. Use the offline HTML app when you want the complete private order management system. Use Notion when you want online access or collaboration. Use the printable PDFs when it's easier to work by hand beside your production area. And use the Canva templates when you need something editable and more visually polished. All of these formats are included so you can build a workflow that feels natural for your business instead of being forced to manage every order in one particular way. Thank you for watching. I'm Todd from F5 Design Studio, and I hope CraftOrder Desk helps you spend less time searching through messages and more time completing your orders with confidence.